Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. We're still trucking along, about 1 week to go. A bit earlier this week for our news weekly updated podcast. Just on all things that's in the NRL news at the moment. Reason for that is we actually pushed back our second episode of the round table, which pub talk, I should say, which has been huge. You've all been loving that, so that's awesome. Really got some great feedback, so I appreciate you guys listening to that. We'll do that on the Thursday night and have that uploaded Friday morning. So just changing things up a little bit to make sure Trav can join us as well. But still, it's been about 5 days since our last podcast. Apologies, there was a bit of an issue uploading the last one, which was mainly just to YouTube. I discovered. I know now what the reason is for that. Hopefully it's been fixed up and you get this one straight away. But yeah, really keen to get into this. A few good talking points, some interesting ones. Got Jesse and Jake along with me for the ride. Before we get into it, just a quick sponsorship plug. So we have opened up our tier options, I guess, for next year. I've looked into things and really made it so that no matter how big or small your business is, if you love the page, you want to support the page moving forward, you want us to support you as well. There's options for everyone. There's 3 tiers. So please go ahead, check out the social media post that's out there now. Or just contact me directly. I'm going to individually sort of adapt the tiers to your needs and what you want, price-wise and things like that as well. So there's a few huge events coming up in 2025. You'll get a free ticket into that. You get a free bit of merch as well. So please reach out, whether it's just to give away a couple of prizes, things like that. We will happily chat and go from there. So appreciate it there. So, boys, let's get into a bit of rugby league talk. And the first one, we sort of spoke about this last week. It was more for the rumor side of it. Now it's been confirmed. It came out on Friday. Reece Robson, and I'll tell you right now, I'll go straight to Jesse because he was a happy boy. We said there was something was building, something was bubbling along for the Roosters, and this was it. Reece Robson, 4-year deal signed from 2026. By all reports, he will honour his contract with the Cowboys next year, so there's no talk whatsoever under my belief that he will go early. But the Roosters got their man for 2026, and Jesse was sort of said all along, it just felt like it was going to happen. This sort of was a match made in heaven.
Yeah, it just suits him to a T, doesn't it? Like I feel like he's going to be a fantastic addition. I really do. I think he pretty much just does everything that the Roosters want from a hooker, and I think he'll just be a seamless fit. I don't think there'll be too much of like a teething problem like the Brandon Smith experiment hasn't really paid off. Again, very different players. I think it's more of what the Roosters wanted from a hooker in general and what they're used to, especially what Robinson's used to. So yeah, I just think it's going to be just an awesome addition. 80 minutes, I pretty much expect out of him as well. So it puts Connor Watson into like that really good utility role. And, if they do need to spell him for whatever reason, because obviously from 26, you'd have to expect Origin as well from him. So, there's more coverage that they'd have to sort out there anyway. But no, look, awesome. I wish it was this year, to be fair, but they do need him now more than ever. So, yeah, I'll take it. 26. Let's go.
It's a good signing, isn't it, Jake? It's an Origin quality player. The Roosters were ready to strike for a big name. We knew that. Along came Reece Robson.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not too old, and they've signed him for 4 years, and I think that he's just hitting the peak of his powers at the moment. So I think it's actually a really good signing for the Roosters. I think that he brings a bit more of like I said this last time actually. I think he brings a bit more of like a Jake Friendly feel than and a bit more like back to their what made them successful back in that sort of era when they were in like 2018 and all those years kind of thing. And that hardworking, just gets the job done, has crisp service, makes his tackles. That style of player, which is exactly what they need. I think when you got like a Sam Walker halfback kind of player who's very flashy and doesn't necessarily need that extra flash from the hooker, I definitely think that it's going to be a really good signing from them. And I think they definitely need to make some more signings, but it's a great start.
You have to think that there's more in the works too. That's what I mean. Like, yeah, hopefully this just broke the ice and now I see 5 more. That would be ideal.
There's definitely that. You feel like there is probably some stuff in the works. I guess from a Cowboys point of view as well, we will touch on that quickly. Just, I don't know who they'll sign for 2026. I guess they've got now a bit of time to think about that and decide. Having a quick look around the open market, there's not a heap that sort of stands out. Again, I think we've spoken about it before, but someone like Little would be definitely something that I would be looking into if I was the Cowboys. Even entertaining, maybe getting a release, things like that. But one of those sorts of players for mine, and they did that with Robson. They obviously signed him from the Dragons, so they have looked at Dragons players in the past. But yeah, I like it. I think the signing's great for the Roosters. It'll elevate them, I think, once again into that sort of premiership window once Sam Walker's back. Teddy, we'll see how long he's got left to go. But they also, by all reports, do have some good young kids actually coming through. So it feels like in a way they've put a lot more emphasis on the junior side of things as well. I'm not talking about the real youngsters. Obviously, we know it's very hard for
Roosters
them
have
to get.
juniors?
Oh, I was waiting for those comments. They're not going to have those but they're very smart with their recruitment now. They're getting a few of those younger players, which they haven't done so in the past. They've always just thrown the big dollar contracts at the big name players and just thought this will cover over our issues. I think this year and the loss of how many players they have lost has made them realize they need to make sure they're actually bringing players through and having that revolving door in a way. So I'm excited to see the next sort of 18 months how they pan out for the Roosters. Still have a little bit of question marks around 2025, but I think this signing ensures that if it is a bit of a blip in the radar next year, then that's literally what it's going to be. They'll be straight back into it come 2026. And Jesse, as a fan, it must fill you with some confidence because I sort of put a little question out there this morning in a post with that, and we'll talk about it shortly, that May stuff. But I sort of was questioning the Roosters a little bit in regards to recruitment and retention the last probably 12 months or so. Some really strange decisions. I don't know from your point of view from a fan, but has it felt like that?
Yeah, definitely. Of course. Well, the whole Terrell May thing was kind of just the biggest head scratcher because, they just re-signed him. There's looking like he's going to walk into a perfect opening of a position for a guy that we were like, awesome. Here he is, seamless transition. We've got the enforcer ready to go. And then they let him go for no particular reason as far as we're going. So really confusing considering the losses this year. And I said it last time as well. They had all these losses incoming. Like they knew they were going to be mass departures at the end of this season, just gone. And it doesn't really seem like anything was done about it. So unless they were just confident with, what they had at the time and thought, we can let these players go and we have the next group of players to take their spots comfortably in a seamless transition. I probably would have liked to seen more of them last year if that's the case, because there wasn't a lot of that. But look, it's still early days in a way. There's still plenty of time between now and the beginning of the season to get a few more signings, and I'd have to imagine that there is definitely things happening behind the scenes because the Robson thing came out of nowhere and they tied it over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that just makes me think that it would have had to have been in the works at least for a bit longer than we would have heard about. So surely there's more. Their business has been pretty quick in the past too. Like nothing really seems to drag on as a saga with the Roosters. They kind of just, well, the Fafita thing was a big one. You know what I mean? Like that come out, they tried to do it, all of a sudden rug pull. Like you're not doing it, done, we're finished then. So they don't really mess around too much with it. So I don't think it's going to be too dragged on. But yeah, like there was a lot of departures, man, and there's not a lot to come. So it just makes you think, like, what are their actual plans for the future? Sam Walker got his contract, so they sort of have an idea where they want to go with it. But again, it's just the dressing room is quite full, so I don't know if we'll see a great deal this season. I just don't see the Roosters shooting himself in the foot for a year just to tie themselves over for 26. I just don't think they're that kind of club to roll over for a season. So
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm very interested to see what the next couple of months holds for the club, whether it's for 2025 signings or 2026 signings. You mentioned a bit, but just before, obviously the Terra May, I guess, incident. It's happened. It's been resolved. He's at the West Tigers. We know that. But then there's been fresh sort of news around his interview on the Buy Round podcast. Shout out to him. He doesn't need many more shout outs. He's flying Jimmy Graham. So, but if you haven't, go ahead, check out the interview. It's a really good interview. I really enjoyed it. Hearing a player, I guess, so open as well about a lot of those sorts of situations where a lot of the time we don't get to hear anything and it's just literally just rumors constantly. We actually don't get to hear either party voice whatever they feel. And we got to finally hear that, which I think is a breath of fresh air. And moving forward in the media world, in the podcasting world and stuff, I would love to see that happen more and players be a little bit more open with this stuff because a lot of the time the players or the players managers and that are painted out as these big villains. where there's always a actual truth behind whatever's happened. And we're starting to hear a bit more, and it's just it seems like only one side of the fence is talking, which is probably a fair assumption to make. But in saying that, Trent Robinson came out at the start when this all happened and said it wasn't to do with anything that May's done off the field or behavior, things like that. So it's filled me with a bit of murky waters. As honest as May has been, it just makes you feel a bit more like, what has happened here? Because as Jesse said just before, like Maria Hargraves went, like the spot just seemed like it opened up like perfectly. In my opinion, he was the Roosters' best forward, best middle forward this year, and to lose him, it just doesn't add up. Still, like I know it's all happened now, it's done. It just still, Jake, it just doesn't add up. Something just feels weird.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit strange. It's a lot strange, to be honest with you. But like, the one thing I think everyone assumed it, being sort of part of the family he is and the things that some of his his brother did and things like that. Everyone assumed that it was something he'd done, and we still don't know the full response, like the full idea of it. But his interview sort of made it seem as though, like they're the ones that caught up and they gave him the boot out of the blue. Like he said in his interview that they hadn't even, like, he literally didn't even think it was real for about a week, and then he's come out and kind of gone like, "Are you actually serious? Like, you don't need me anymore." But what the other thing that he sort of said was that it, like the timing of it. He said that they actually timed it. He reckons that they've timed it so he couldn't go with like a big name club like the Panthers, like they had a spot open up and things like that. They waited until basically everyone had been snapped up, kind of thing, to release him. And yeah, I think it's weird because I didn't think about it that way, but it has a bit of merit, to be honest with you. Like, if there was a team to do that, it'd probably be the Roosters, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just shrewd business. Like, they're gonna not try and give him. Yeah, they're not gonna try and give him to their best competitors. But one thing I don't understand is, because they have a contract, right? Both sides of it have a contract, and he had just signed. He still had a year or two left to go.
He's got an extension.
Yeah, he just got a 2-year extension, didn't he? So could he have said, like, no? Could he have said, I don't want, like, I'm staying here and you can't stop me, technically? Yeah, I assume you're not going to do that because you don't want to go into somewhere where no one sort of, like, where they don't want you. I get that. You know what I mean? And he knew that he could go anywhere and still get more money than what he was on. So he's not going to be that mad about that, I suppose, in that sense. But one comment that really stood out to me was he said that they said to him that he had reached his potential. I couldn't believe that. I could not believe that sentence. He reached his potential. He's had one season in first grade. And to be honest with you, he crushed it. But he's only had one season. Like, he's going to get better with experience. He's got the energy, the size, the youth, like the impact. He only needs experience to become one of the best props probably in the world. And they've released him. And I don't understand it. I don't think anyone understands it except for whoever's going on in the Roosters. And, they have their own ideas upon it. And none of us will probably ever know. And that is what it is, I guess. But yeah, he's going to do big things at the Tigers, and I think he, and along with Luai, combined with obviously Coruscant in that hooker role, and Galvin now, they're going to drag them out of that slump a little bit. I
think he's destined for Origin, in my opinion. Like, got huge raps on him, and like you said, this was his first year. That's the crazy thing about this is, I had already in my predicted team. I remember listing it in Origin 1, and I said he was on my bench. I wanted him to come and be the Spencer role, which Spencer ended up getting it and killed it as well. So credit to him. But you're right. It's just I still just think it's so odd. The more I keep hearing people talk, the more it just doesn't make sense. It's the most odd thing I feel like in league for a long time, and there's been some odd things.
Yeah, well, if they think that he's reached his potential in not even a full starting season, like even the games that he started, he crushed. And the games that he come off the bench, he may as well have started because he played more minutes than the guys that did. So it's just like, it'll be the one that got away, I reckon. It'll be the one that they just go, why did we do that in a few years?
What I want to know is whether Robbo agreed with it, because I feel like it can't have come from him because he used him so much through the year. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it can't have come directly from Robbo.
He's like, I didn't need to take him off. I could just leave him out there and just rely on him. It's like, as if you don't want that from a player. Everyone would want Terrell May in their club straight off the jump. Perfect. I don't have to worry. He's going to do a shift. He's got everything in his game, and again, it's early days for him. So it's confusing. It's really confusing
Question.
from the club perspective.
Question for you boys. Do you think the Roosters were trying to distance themselves from him due to what was going on with his brother and stuff like that? Do you think that could have been some sort of reason for it, or like factor?
Nah,
I
I
don't.
don't.
I don't think so. I think it's more so they've read a bit too much into some of the comments he has said over the last maybe 6 months in terms of I sort of take this game half seriously at times and things like that. That sort of aura that he has about him. I think a few of the older heads at the club that have been there for a while, the old school mentality has probably heard one too many of those and gone, we want people to actually be buying in and read that as him not buying in. But again, we've already discussed it. When he's on the field, he's an absolute monster. That's for me buying into your club. Like he's been for mine, he's probably in the top 5 every time he plays for the Roosters this year, and that was huge. And if I was the West Tigers, I'm absolutely cheering now because you're hearing him talk now in interviews saying, I want to play more minutes. Make sure I'm on the field. I want to be part of things. Push me. Go until I can't breathe. Literally said, go until I can't breathe anymore. Like he wants to just play. And like that's music to my ears because we all know the longer he plays, the better he gets every week. Like he's so
Yeah.
freaky, man.
And the more minutes he does play, the better for the Blues. Guess he'll probably get a
Yeah.
call up.
Oh,
That'd be the
100%.
And
first
super
bloody.
coach.
Yeah, oh man, that was where I was going. I'm like, he wants more minutes. Give him 80. God, he's in everyone's team. Lock it
He's
in.
got to be. It's got to be.
Has to. We're throwing a
No,
captain on him
and
every week.
100%. And talking about the Tigers, I guess it's a bit of a segue. Tigers fans are happy hearing that they're licking their lips. Then they got probably shut straight down to earth, knowing that Luai, Jerome Luai, was all of a sudden has only signed a 2-year deal with your club technically because there's this player option there for the 3rd year. So he's there for obviously this year. Technically, he can already start talking to literally other clubs this time next year or November 1. Like that's crazy. That's something that if I was a Tigers fan, I would be extremely worried about. Just making sure that we ensure our future as a club is going the direction we promised Luai it would be. And that's going to be tested very, very early on now. They've got literally 12 months to show that that can happen. And we all know for the Tigers' sake, it's a big job. Like it could take longer than 12 months. And then it'll be up to Luai to go, I'm happy to stay around. Now, for a Tigers point of view, I understand why they've probably had to put this in because they needed this sort of player to turn it around, to make the change. So it's sort of honestly, I'm on the fence about it because I can understand the disappointment behind it. But at the same time, the Tigers have to have these sorts of contracts for these sorts of players to get them over at the moment. And they can't change the club if they don't. It's, I don't know other way to say it, Jesse. It's just, you need that quality. You need that player. He would have, from all reports, he was pretty much signed to deliver at the Dogs. Tigers came in late, and obviously the 5 years is a good thing for him. A bit more security, plus now a bit of player power for himself after 2 years. No brainer.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. Like they have to entice these quality players to the club to get themselves up there. So, they've been very poor for quite a while. You can't imagine there's people kicking the doors down to join the Tigers. So obviously the money talks, but at the same time, like he's a 4-time straight winner, grand final winner. Like this guy knows success. He knows how to win. Um, and he's used to it. So you can't imagine players like that wanting to just roll over for a pay packet, even if it is a good amount of money, because it's going to be such a shift for him. Like if they just continuously lose, like it's hard to go from what to this sudden change to just losing. So admittedly that if things do go south for the Tigers and they still don't for whatever reason pick themselves up, he has got a way out if he wants to go back to it, because by the time that ends, he'll be 29 when he gets that option available, and he's still got years in him. And like I know a lot of people will say that like he rode off the Cleary coattails, but he was there. He was an integral part of that side the whole time they were winning everything. He's won Origin as a 5'8". He's won all these championships in a row, comps back to back to back to back like that. You don't just get that playing next to someone good. Like you have to have a quality. And we saw it last year when he was pretty much running the team on his own in the halves there when Cleary was out. Like he stood up. So I think the Tigers have got themselves something good, and their mentality would be like, they're building something pretty nuts. Like they see what Benji can do to actually get the best out of all of them. But if he can, or if they just turn up like you would expect them to with the quality of player, there's every chance he does stay and continue his contract for the following 3 years after that. So, it gives him a way out if things aren't right, if he's not there and he's not enjoying it, whatever. And that's his player power, and he's entitled to it entirely. Otherwise, if things start going well, which is what they're all hoping, he doesn't have to use it. Oh, there's plenty of other players in the comp as well that have that kind of contract. I think Dylan Brown's got something similar, where
Moses.
everything goes right, and there's no reason to use it, but it is for the player's own career. So I don't really have a problem with it. I think the Tigers kind of have to use that as a bargaining chip half the time. So
Jake, what are your thoughts on the matter?
I both agree and disagree with you, Like, I do definitely agree that it's for the player, it's for their protection, for their safety, and I definitely agree with it. But I also, as an Eels fan, have seen what it can do to a club. I understand massively that the Tigers needed something to get him across that line. Like, I know that they needed to get him across. And so for them, it was a necessity more so than it was like a luxury to be able to do that. They had to get him across that line. They were desperate for him. Now, the thing is, I don't see him leaving the Tigers, win, lose, or draw, because he's won 4 comps, right? They could basically, I don't think they're going to get the spoon. So if they go middle of the pack, he's shown an improvement in the side kind of thing, even from there. And he's on one of the biggest contracts in the NRL. Like, he's on one of the highest paid sort of contracts in the NRL at the moment. So for him, going to another club to try and win a comp kind of doesn't make much sense. And he's getting a lot of money. Like, he's securing his interest in the future. So I don't see him taking up his player option. I think he has every right to have it. But at the same time, as the team's halfback and all the smack that he talks and stuff like that as a player, I'd like to see him back himself. I would have liked to see him sign that 4-year contract with nothing else behind him and just go like, I'm going to take this team by myself and do this. Like, I'm gonna lead this team to a top 8 or a premiership or whatever he wants to, whatever his sort of goal is for that. I would have really liked to see him back himself in to do that. But at the same time, I fully understand if a club's going to offer you safety, you're not going to not take it. You know what I mean? Like, for him, it's a no-brainer. He's going to take that option. And the Tigers had to do it to get him there. So, it's a necessity, but at the same time, I just think I really would have liked to see him back his own ability and just go like, yes, I'm going to take us there.
It's funny because I feel like, as well, if I was a Tigers fan, in a weird way, I'm actually kind of happy about this because my club's been the laughing stock for so long now, and it's been shit for so long now. It's actually going to force the club, as I said, to quickly change things. Stop just going, oh, yeah, we've got a few years now to fix everything. Yes, some of it will take that time, but you actually get on the front foot now, actually show that you want to genuinely fix the club. And if you will, I've got no doubt in my mind, as you've rightly explained there, Jake, Luai will stay around. He will stay around. He'll see what's happening. He'll see the future and go, yep, I want to be part of that. Let's go. What will happen if they don't? He'll go, you haven't promised on what you've promised me. You haven't delivered on it. And from a fan's point of view, that means we're once again going to finish last this year. We're going to have no direction on the field. Our coaching structure is going to be horrible like it has. The admin's basically piss poor. And fair enough, like, go and leave. Like, we haven't given you one of the better players in our game the what you signed up for, which would have made our club better. So, as I said, in a weird, sick way, if I was a fan, I kind of like knowing that he has this, because my club's going to be pushed now to finally be better, to be an NRL club.
But does it mean that he doesn't push himself then? That's what I'm asking. So does it mean that
He will.
Yeah, look, I think he will too, because I don't think he's the type of person to just sit there for 2 years for no reason.
He's already back at training. I think he's back 2 weeks or something before he has to be there. So
yeah,
he's ready.
yeah, we saw what role that Stephen Crichton played going to the Dogs. He's come from a successful team. He's grabbed them by the scruff, and he leads by example in that side. And I expect Luai to do very much the same sort of thing, because you're getting them from the mentality of what they know, and he's a winner. Like, he's straight up as a winner, and the Tigers have been missing that for so long. So I feel like his presence there and his experience of just winning is going to lift up. And if the rest of the team don't follow suit, man, I don't blame him if he wants to back out, because that'll just show there's no chance. Like, this club has no hope at the moment with the way things are running. So it gives the Tigers a 2-year deadline basically to sort themselves out, or they're going back to square one. So
true. I do think one thing that the Tigers themselves have sort of done better this time around is that every other time so far they've signed, let's like one player across from a successful club and hope that they would just change the entire mentality of the team on their own, and that wasn't going to happen. But this year they've signed 3. They've signed Royce Hunt. Oh, actually, sorry, I forgot Taruva. Skelton came across from a Bulldog side that was doing really well. So they've actually signed 5 players who have come across from teams that are running pretty red hot at the moment. So to be completely honest with you, I think that just getting a few of those boys around to get in the other people's heads, plus the boys that were already there, like your Coruscant and stuff like that, that's where I see the big change coming, is in the mentality around the group from players, having multiple players there who will push them and kind of go, no, get in gear, you're getting up here and you're doing this, in fitness or whatever it ends up being. Like this is necessary to win a comp, and those other boys will respect it too, because they'll go, you're coming from a system that has done this 4 times, so let's make it happen.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. So I think for the Tigers fans, it's actually a really good thing in the weirdest way possible. I know it's probably frustrating, but it's going to push your club to finally deliver on the promises it's made to you, the fans, for it felt like 10 years now. So and Luai's a fighter. He'll be right in there in amongst it straight away now. He'll be getting the best out of everyone on a daily basis. One final thing, just going to start doing a little bit of a sort of a way too early prediction or of the like, just to generate a bit of talking. Everyone wants to start talking about 2025 and who we want. I've had a number of requests already about our ladder predictions and stuff like that. Not going to go that far, guys. We're going to give you a little bit at a time, and then next year, literally in 2025, we will give you our ladder predictions. But I want to know our way too early wooden spoon prediction and why. So who we think will finish with the wooden spoon, and give a little spiel as to why you believe. So, Jake, I'll let you kick us off.
I'm going to give you 2, and then I'm going to pick out of the 2. So I'll tell you 2 who it could be, and I'll explain. I'll pick the 1. Does that sound all right? All right. So my 2 are the Dolphins and the Dragons. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the Dolphins, that one comes from the Wayne Bennett effect. Everyone's heard about it. We know what's happened at other clubs. When he leaves, clubs go into disarray and things like that. They don't have the strongest squad in the NRL. Okay. And I think that him being there was a big reason for the success that they had at all in the first place. Right. I still don't think they're a strong enough squad to win the comp, kind of thing like that. And I definitely don't think that, I definitely don't think they're a strong enough team to win the comp, and I don't think they'll be pushing for the 8 this year with the change in coach and the change in style and the players that they have. Don't get me wrong, they still have strong players in their squad, but every team has some strong players. And I just think that will be too big of an obstacle to overcome. But yeah, the other one, which I saw you have that reaction, Joel, is the Dragons. My main reason for you is just the halves. To be honest with you, they don't have a bad side, but their halves are not the halves that are winning you a comp, let alone like making the 8, to be completely honest with you. I don't see them winning many games this year if their halves can't produce anything. And from what I've seen of Elias, Flanagan's definitely got some stuff in him, but he's not going to win a many games on his own kind of thing. And Elias, unless he does something super unpredictable and comes out and is this sort of Adam Reynolds-y player that the Rabbitohs sort of thought he was going to be, I just don't see him winning them games either. I've not seen anything from him that convinces me he can do that, and they have no backup halves. So the rest of the teams are right. Like they've got Gutho, they've got Val Holmes, they've brought over a Cookie. I get all that, right? But at the same time, your halves are what win you games. Your halves put the points on the board. And so my final pick is going to be the Dolphins. I'm going with the Dolphins. They're going to be my lock. But I think the Dragons will be close behind.
Oh, Jesse, who you got?
I'm surprised to see Sorry.
Actually, I'll let you go last because I don't want to double up because I'll do the outro and stuff. I'll go for next. I'll leave you till last, Jesse. So for mine,
sure,
I'll go down your path, Jake. I'll go down your having 2 teams. One, I do agree with you with the Dragons. The halves is a huge concern for me. I do like the Elias signing. I really do. I just think the actual competition itself is going to be super close this year, and that not having that stable halves could be detrimental to the Dragons. They might lose a couple of those really close ones, which all of a sudden, as lots of fans out there know over the last few years for supporting certain teams and stuff, all of a sudden you're sitting last or you're sitting second last and you're going, what have we done here? Like we've only lost a couple of games by a couple of points, but they're still losses. You haven't picked up those points. So that could come back to hurt the Dragons a lot. My other team, and I've started to mention this a few times around places and comments and stuff, the Newcastle Knights just are not grabbing me one bit next year. My huge
Actually,
concern
I
at the
forgot about
moment
them,
with them.
I forgot
My
about them,
huge
actually. But I'm going to
concern,
calculate. Sorry, keep going.
my huge concern with them is Ponga and their reliance on Ponga in terms of defenses in the NRL are getting smarter by literally the year. And I honestly feel like, and we started to see it with the Broncos with Walsh this year, as good as these players are, and Ponga is one of the best players in the comp. Do not get me wrong with what I'm trying to say here, but it's one person. He doesn't have really anyone else around him to help him on a weekly basis at the moment because, first of all, the coach can't get his halves right. I don't know how hard it is, but literally just get someone who brings out the best in Ponga, can support him, ease a bit of pressure on him, away you go. It does not seem hard. And defenses will work out now how to stop Ponga. And they started to do so this year. And luckily, because of Ponga's brilliance, he was able to overcome that at certain points. But there was definitely a lot more times I noticed this year that he got shut down, where in other years it was Ponga, the Ponga show. Like it was just Ponga, 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 where even with, as I said, with Walsh, similar. I'm just very, very worried about them. Even if he goes down, I think they're absolutely screwed. I don't think the Knights could win many games next year. There's something with their roster that doesn't appeal to me at all. For me, I'll be locking in the Knights. I think the Knights will be the wooden spooners for 2025. As I said, just not getting me at all, and it's just my gut feel. Jesse, what's yours?
I feel like it's been so easy to pick this, and I've been saying the Tigers forever, but I really don't think so anymore. I don't think they'll be as bad as they have. So I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. Like I do think the Dragons are probably going to do poorly or poorer than usual because of the Harb situation. I always have doubts in the Raiders, but they always seem to find a way. I just think that they're just getting past the point that they can really get the grit. Like you make good points about the Knights being one man team, which is completely fair. I don't think they'll do well. I don't think the Dragons will do well. I don't know. I don't think that the Raiders will come last, but I don't like the way that they look. There's just something that I'm looking at. I'm like, it's not improved. If anything, it's getting weaker. Um, I just think, yeah, Ricky's sort of come to the end and it's just nothing's working out for him. So I know that the Raiders guys will say, they've got the determination to win games and they do. They beat the Roosters pretty bad last time and it's one of those teams that can just find a win. So in that, I've been like thinking, okay, maybe not. But I just don't like the look of them. I don't know. It'll be my sort of smoky wooden spooner. If I see the Raiders come last, I'll be like, there you go. That sort of took me by surprise. But yeah, if not, be the Dragons. I reckon that as well. So I'm just going to
Who
go
you
different
locking
and
in?
say the Raiders.
Give us
Raiders
one
for me.
team. Look out. We've
Done.
all gone different. I like that. I think that also shows you, as we just sort of said, the competition this year is going to be quite open. And I mean that I'm not talking about the front runners. I think there's two quite obvious front runners in my opinion at the moment, looking at things. But the rest of the pack, like it's quite open. Like you looked at the bottom teams from last year, I think majority of them have all improved quite a bit. And it's just I think there's going to be about 7 or 8 teams which are just going to be so close. And it wouldn't surprise me if last to like ninth are separated by like 6 points or something next year, which would be crazy, but it'd be awesome for the competition side of things. So
Yeah.
Spoon bowl
I was
round
thinking,
2.
yeah, I was reckoning the same. I reckon 6 points or so is going to separate everyone. It's going to be this really tight battle. And whoever does come last is probably going to be quite unlucky.
yeah. Be the best last place team probably we've ever had.
Pretty much. It just shows, I don't know, is it a good or bad thing? Because the top teams are so far away. That's the thing. There's a big divide there.
One of those have gone down the pecking order a little bit in the Roosters, I think next year, but we'll see if their recruitment can find something to get them back up for next year. But that's it. Hope you all enjoyed this one. I know a lot of pages out there are starting to do their announcements and do their last show and things like that. Just to let everyone know and be aware, we'll be back next week. Will be our last week, and then we'll have the Chrissy and New Year break off. But there'll probably be a Supercoach show thrown in there at some point, I believe, Jesse. So. We won't be completely bare, but the News Weekly stuff and the pub talk will both finish up next week, just for a couple of weeks. Then we'll reassess, organise our 2025 stuff, and then go from there. So, you'll see us one more week. We'll say our Christmases and stuff by then. But for now, boys, thank you. Hope you all enjoyed it. Again, hit that like, subscribe button, all that sort of jazz, social media as well. And we will check in with you again in a few days' time for Pub Talk.